Nice to see you guys. Today we're gonna discuss pressure in gases. And before we start talking about pressure, let's talk about particles of gases. Any gas consists of some particles that move in random directions at a range of different speeds, which means we got some random particles moving in random, chaotically, and with different speed. And that such movement, called Brownian motion, invented by Brown, and we use that principle to determine pressure in gases. Actually, when we're talking about some gas particles inside of such container, we see that gas particles collide with the surface and with each other, and the pressure exerted on that surface. Reason balloons get bigger when you blow them up is because you are adding some air into balloon, which means you are increasing number of particles inside the balloon, which leads us to increasing number of collisions, which means we got more collisions, we got higher force on walls, which leads us to higher pressure. This makes balloon expand, as we see on picture. So what happens if we reduce the volume of container? Is a similar thing happens. It is shown in diagram to the left. If volume of container is reduced, gas particles collide with the walls of container more often, which leads to a higher force on walls of the container, therefore a higher pressure. If we increase temperature of gas in container, the kinetic energy and the speed of gas particles also increase, which lead us more collision with the walls of the container, which means we increase the force of collision, and at the end of all that movement, we got increasing in our pressure of gas. So if we wanna demonstrate some changing in gas movement or movement in particle, we have to see some demonstrations with the virtual lab works. So let's move on to the Fed Colorado. Choose ideal gas. So what we see on the screen, we got a container, we got a barometer for measuring pressure, and we got a thermometer for measuring our temperature. And also we could change some volume, we can change our temperature, we could pump some air particles or gas particles into the container. Also we could change the volume of container, we could measure pressure in gas, and etc. So that's possibilities that given platform represents us. But actually, before we start, let's talk about theoretical part of our topic. As we know, and as we discussed before, we know that pressure in gases creates by collision of particles during the chaotically or randomly motion of any particle. So if we add into empty container one particle, nothing crucial happens, because as we know, pressure happens only when that particle collide with the walls of container or with some other particles. So for slightly increasing pressure, we have to add more particles, and the number of that particles should be slightly more than we used before. So when we add more particles, pressure increase, and if we continue adding that particles, our pressure will also increase dramatically, which lead us increasing in temperature, increasing in kinetic energy, also increasing in number of collisions and the force of collisions. So, but could we change pressure without adding some air? Actually, yeah. Actually, yes. How we should do that? We have to change volume of container. If we decrease volume of container, we could easily increase number of collisions, which lead us increasing in pressure. But also we could change their kinetic energy. How do we do that? We have to increase temperature of particles, which gives them increasement in a speed, which lead us more collisions, and we could increase the pressure. So if we look to the diagram, we could see that temperature is increasing and the pressure is also increasing. So at the end, if we got very high pressure, we could break our container. Actually, that's why we got some break points or break limits of any container that contains gas, like a propane, like a methane or hydrogen, and etc. So we could break such containers because we could break them by pressure. So guys, if you wanna practice, I recommend you to go to the WordWall website, where you can find some quizzes on topic gas pressure. You could write some quizzes. So I want to demonstrate you one of the given quizzes on that website. So let's talk about some examples. You got two balloons. Which of these balloons is under greater pressure? So let's look to the balloons. If we look to the second balloon, balloon B, we see that number of collisions on balloon B slightly more than balloon A, and we could say that pressure in balloon B slightly more. Yep, we are right. Complete the sentence. Right now, particles are, as we see before, particles in gases are always moving in random direction, so answer will be moving. Next one. Which of two things is pressure of gas affected by? So we got two answers on that problem. Pressure of gas is affected by number of particles and the temperature of particles. If you took balloon up mountain, it would expand. So guys, if you going to mountain camp, you would notice that your pack of chips or any pack expand, and it's true, because pressure inside of your package is more than pressure in top of mountain, because gas at the top of mountain has less particles. So that's the next question. Where on mountain are there less air particles? We say that top, and that's the correct answer. Do gas particles move less energy than liquid particles? As we know, liquid and the gas particles contains pressure, but actually if we're talking about particles more accurately, gas particles moving with a slightly higher speed, which means the energy is more. Air pressure is the force applied by air particles or energy applied by air particles, how much pressure in air we got. So generally pressure, it's some physical quantity related to the force, and we will change the first option. If the volume of container reduced, gas pressure will We know the answer to this question because we see it on diagram. If we decrease volume of container, pressure will increase. When cooled, helium balloon will shrink because pressure will decrease. It's a good idea to check car tire pressure on a cold morning. Actually, no, because when you are riding a car through the friction, your tire will expand and increase the pressure. But actually, if we're talking about practical stage of such experiment, it will be better check your car pressure on cold morning, because if you got extra pressure, it will be easier to detect that. So, as we see, right answer is a false. So let's go to some questions from our slide.